This is 9 in 9 Enneagram Wisdom for Life. Let's dive in. All right. Hi, Julie. Welcome. We are so glad to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah. For everybody listening, the motive of a one is to do the right thing and to be right and to improve the inner and external world. So I'd love to know just what that feels like going through the world as a one.
Sure. Sometimes ones are called perfectionists, which I don't always love that term because I don't feel perfect, but I do have a drive to make things better. Everywhere I go, I want to try to improve things. I want to try to make things better and like a deep core desire to be good. That's really what drives, I think, a one. And that can look a lot of different ways and a lot of different, types of ones might feel that differently, but for me, I always want to do the right thing. I always want to be good. I always want to give 100%. I always want to try to make things better.
Just for practicality's sake, you're always wanting to make things better, to be good and do the right thing and be the right. What does that look like just on a day when maybe you're out running errands?
Well, that might look similar to what someone else might experience, but it's a lot of internal, like thinking through, okay, I've got this situation coming up and how can we improve that or make that better? So maybe thinking about work or maybe thinking about parenting or maybe thinking about a relationship. How can I improve or make this better? And so it's a lot of times like in parenting, it might be researching, okay, what's the best practice for this situation? Or at work, it might look like, oh, this process doesn't feel right. So I think we need to take a look at it again. I think we need to work through it and try to make it better. So, like at the grocery store, not necessarily like needing the perfect groceries, but having that internal running dialogue in my head all the time.
Ones are in the triad for the body triad, the gut triad, which is also the anger as the underlying emotion. And for ones, many times I know as I've interacted and taught the Enneagram, they're like, wait, but I'm not angry. And they're like, well, but are you always kind of irritated? Oh, yes, I am. Right. So for you, how do you see anger and irritation as the undercurrent?
It's like my gut response almost all the time is being I mean, I can overcast, but like honestly, it really is kind of like, oh, that feels unjust or that feels wrong. That kind of is my immediate go-to. But something that a lot of ones do, and I do as well, is sort of sanitize our reactions.
Sure.
So we may feel a lot of anger initially, but then we'll run it through that internal monologue of like, wait, I don't have any right to feel mad, or maybe I'm overthinking this or all of that. And so then we clean it up. And when it comes out to other people, we've had a chance to sanitize it a little bit, or it comes out sideways if we haven't thought it through and it comes out as resentment or as like frustration or I can't believe,
Yeah.
it just comes out sideways if we don't necessarily recognize that right away.
Yeah, interesting. How does the gut intuitive instinct play into this constant dialogue about making things better?
I would say there's kind of two pieces to it. Like the overthinking, I think, is a part of being in the dependent stance of the Enneagram. And so we're always like wanting to do the right thing and it depends on other people and that kind of thing. But the gut is different in a sense of like sometimes I'm not overthinking something and I'll just have a good sense of what I need to do next. Being really in the moment and knowing like I think this is I don't even think. I just kind of know this is the next step that I need to take. So there's a contrast. I know that might sound confusing between this running overthinking constantly, but then also the gut I think is different. It's kind of like in the moment I know this is what I need to do.
Yeah, yeah, it's a gift. Like your dominant instinct is a gift to you if it's
Yes.
in health, and
Correct.
those things. So you mentioned being in the present moment and trusting your gut, which brings up time orientation, and the one being a present time oriented number, supported by past and repressed future. Any thoughts on how that shows
All
up?
the time. In fact, I could talk about that for a long time. At work, it means for me, my like most pressing thing that we always have to talk about is right now. What problem do we have right now? What do we need to fix right now? And vision casting for the future is hard. It's hard to think through like what we want in 3 years, 10 years, 5 years, whatever, because I'm so focused on the needs of today. In my husband is also in the dependent stance.
Okay.
And it's funny because we've, looked at it through the lens of the Enneagram, and we realized like that's a place that we need to intentionally push into, because neither one of us is going to be the person who is thinking about the future, setting goals for our family. It's just not going to be natural for either one of us. So to have the language now to know, oh, that's a need that we have, has helped us be a little bit more intentional about it. But it's never something I'm going to do naturally. It's never going to be my natural bent.
So, Julie, what is hard about being a 1?
There are a few things. One is, ones traditionally have, everyone experiences an inner critic, but for us, it's very, very loud. And I can speak to my experience of that as a social one. My inner critic might sound different than maybe another one might experience it, but for me, it's this very loud voice that's of should. So it's not necessarily like an outside person talking, but it's this like overwhelming sense of should all the time, especially when I make a mistake. A mistake can be debilitating if I'm not in a healthy place. And so over and over in my head, you should have done this, you should have handled this differently, you should have done this, just like constantly. And that can be exhausting if you're not doing the work of being grounded and blocking that out and realizing that's not the truth. What's also hard, and this is something that I've gotten better at over the years, but especially in like teenagehood and early adulthood, I felt like I had to give 100% to everything. And I'm a really busy person. And so to give so much and put so much pressure on myself in every single area of my life was really hard. And in fact, sometimes I don't even like to say that I'm a 1. I've worked on this, but originally because I'm like, I'm not a perfectionist. My life isn't perfect. Like, you can look at me and you see my house is a mess, or like I'm, struggling with these areas in my life. And I'm like, I don't feel like I'm representing the brand. But I think other ones might feel that too, like
because the brand got misbranded
right,
as perfectionism.
And we just want to say like, we're not perfect. Please understand this.
Well, what's the best thing about being a 1?
I do think that our ability to reform and make things better is a gift.
Yeah.
I really do. And I love how easy it is for me to see strengths in other people and like call that out and encourage them and call them into that. I think that is a real gift as well. And I think that's connected to our belief in potential and like seeing how good things can be.
What do you do with the anger and the irritation when you say that's kind of the first response? What does that look like to handle that throughout the day?
That's a good question. Some self-reflection on if that anger is justified, and sometimes it is. And then sometimes in that case, naming it. If it's because of an injury from someone else, like being able to say that made me upset, or if it's more often in my case as a social one, it's an injustice against a group, right? Well, how can you expect them to vote? And so I have to discern if it's appropriate to say something or not. And then I also, on the other hand, often anger is hiding a different emotion. There's another emotion underneath. Yeah. So maybe it's sadness or maybe it's grief. And I have to be able to work through that and see that, like, even though anger might have come out initially, there's something underneath it. And that takes slowing down. And ones, we are fast. We're on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. And so often in a course of a regular day, that reflection's not happening.
What do you wish other people knew about a 1?
That's a great question. And I think sometimes because we hold ourselves to such high standards, people in our lives may feel, and it might be a fair like takeaway, that we hold them to those same high standards. And while we do have high expectations for the people in our life just because we see so much potential, we aren't holding them to the same like rigorous standards that we hold ourselves. And so that has been a learning experience for me, is the more I can model showing grace for myself, that's also sending the message to people in my life that I have grace for you too.
Yeah. Hey friends, wherever you are hearing or seeing this video, would you do us a favor and find our podcast on your favorite platform? It's called Living Well by Jen. We're working really hard to put out informative and helpful content about the Enneagram. And one way that you can support us, it's simple, it's free, and it would mean the world, is if you would follow the podcast and give us a 5-star rating or a review. Thanks so much.